mean, if you people have, problems and scars, and so we connect with that on a personal.
Ben Napier, the warm-hearted craftsman and co-host of HGTV's Home Town, has finally addressed the swirling rumors. In an emotional revelation, he confirmed fans' greatest fears, exposing a heartbreaking reality that has shaken the beloved show and surprised viewers everywhere. What could this mean for the future of Home Town? Join us as we uncover the details behind this confession. The dream and the rumors surrounding Home Town's biggest project. When people talk about feel-good television, Home Town always comes up. It is not just another show about fixing houses. It is a love letter to a small community in Mississippi and a story about how heart, family, and vision can breathe life into places many had forgotten. At the center of it all are Ben and Erin Napier, a couple who turned their passion for design and history into something that grew far beyond their own town. Over the years, their journey has expanded in ways even they may never have imagined. And now the spotlight is shining brighter than ever because of one ambitious project that has brought with it both excitement and heavy whispers of uncertainty. The heart of Home Town lies in Laurel, a quiet Mississippi town with rich history and streets filled with old homes that once stood proudly but had slowly fallen into disrepair. The Napiers made it their mission to bring these houses back to life, restoring them with care while keeping their character intact. Viewers fell in love instantly, not only because of the stunning makeovers, but also because of the warmth Ben and Erin brought into every episode. They showed that home was not just about bricks and wood, but about love, memories, and the people who would live inside.
About the things that we love about home. It's not about how pretty it is, it's about what home means and the way our houses take care of us. And it's a story about generations.
With each passing season, Home Town grew bigger. Fans around the country tuned in to watch old houses transform into beautiful homes full of charm. The success opened doors for more opportunities. Soon came spin-offs and specials that allowed the Napiers to share their talents and passion with an even wider audience. Each extension carried the same heart and spirit, but also revealed the couple's growing ambition. They wanted to show the world that small towns mattered, that history was worth saving, and that communities could thrive when given care. It was no surprise then that their next step would be something even larger. That dream took shape in the form of Home Town, In This Together, also known as the Heirloom Hotel Project.
We're in an unfinished hotel, the Heirloom Hotel here in Laurel, Mississippi. It's a project we've been working on for a very long time.
For Ben and Erin, it was more than just a new television series. It was a bold idea to take a historic building in downtown Laurel and turn it into a boutique hotel. The building itself carried decades of stories, and the couple wanted to breathe new life into it. This was not just about creating a place for travelers to stay, but about giving Laurel a landmark that could welcome people from all over the world, a space that would celebrate the town's beauty and history while offering comfort and charm. From the moment the hotel project was announced, fans were buzzing with excitement. But with big dreams often come big questions, and soon rumors began to swirl around the project. Some started whispering about possible delays in the series. A project of this size, after all, was much larger than restoring a single home. It required resources, time, and an incredible amount of planning. People wondered if the Napiers had taken on too much, even with their experience and dedication. Others worried about the building itself. Being an old structure, there were concerns about whether it was strong enough to be fully restored. The cost of repairing or rebuilding certain parts of it could easily grow beyond what was expected. Fans who followed the progress began speculating about whether the project might be slowed down or even put on hold because of the challenges tied to working with such an aged property. As time passed and updates came in bits and pieces, more theories began to surface. Some fans worried that the hotel might never open at all. They questioned whether the project would survive the difficulties that seemed to surround it. With so many moving parts involved, from funding to construction to design, people naturally started to imagine the worst. The internet and social media fueled the fire. Some said financial setbacks could be behind the delays. Others suggested that complicated regulations for renovating historic buildings might be slowing things down. A few even wondered if unexpected damage had been discovered inside the building that made the work harder than expected. Every small detail sparked new guesses, and every pause in progress created more questions. Despite the cloud of speculation, there was still a strong sense of hope. Many fans continued to believe in the Napiers' vision, trusting that they would find a way to bring the hotel to life just as they had done with so many houses before. Still, the mix of excitement and worry left people anxiously waiting for answers. Was this dream too big, or would it stand as their greatest achievement yet? The truth is, the Heirloom Hotel project became more than just another renovation. It became a symbol. It represented the leap from fixing individual homes to building something that could carry the weight of a whole town's pride.
Our homes are more than just a beautiful showplace. That's not what home is. Home doesn't look like this, right? It's a real place and a real thing, and the thing.
That is why the rumors cut so deeply. People were not only watching a television series, they were following a journey that felt personal, a dream that many wanted to see succeed because it carried the heart of Laurel and the hope of what small towns everywhere could become. But what was this big news that shook everyone? The fire that shook Ben and Erin's dream. When the news broke, it came not from a reporter or a press release, but straight from Erin herself. On her Instagram page, she shared what had happened, and for many it felt like the air left the room. For months, whispers had traveled around Laurel, and people had been wondering what Ben and Erin were building with so much love and attention. When the confirmation finally arrived, it was not the kind of announcement anyone had hoped for. Erin explained that the building had been badly damaged by a fire. This was not a small accident or a little setback. It was a major blow that changed everything about the project.
Say that they cannot determine the cause of that fire that destroyed a hotel just outside of Fairmont earlier this week.
What made it even harder was the fact that the building had not yet welcomed a single guest. After all the months of work, planning, and dreaming, the doors had never even opened before the fire swept through. The fire itself had started in the very early hours of the morning. That timing was both lucky and heartbreaking. Lucky because no one was inside. There were no workers, no guests, and no neighbors harmed. That brought a sense of relief to everyone who heard the news. But it was also heartbreaking because this meant the fire moved in silence without anyone there to stop it. By the time people discovered what was happening, the flames had already left their mark. The worst of the damage was on the top floor. Flames ate through the structure, leaving behind broken wood and blackened remains. The heat had been fierce, and when the firefighters came, they worked with everything they had to save the building. Water poured through the windows and walls, drenching the lower floors. Though it stopped the fire, it left behind heavy water damage that stretched from ceiling to floor. Every inch of the place carried scars, some from fire, others from the effort to put it out. Erin's words about the moment were heavy with grief. She described it as feeling like a funeral. This was not just a building to her, to Ben, or to their friends. It was a dream, a labor of love that had taken so many months of energy and sacrifice. To watch it suffer before it even had a chance to live felt unbearable. In her words, you could hear the sorrow of someone saying goodbye to something that had become a part of their family. For Ben, it was just as crushing. He had poured his strength, his hands, and his heart into the project. Anyone who knows him knows that his work is never just about wood and nails. For him, building is about making something that carries meaning, something that lasts. To stand outside and look at the charred walls, knowing what had been lost inside, was almost too much to bear. And yet, even in the middle of heartbreak, there was a silver lining that could not be ignored. No one had been hurt. Not a single life was lost, and that reminder gave comfort when the sadness felt overwhelming. Buildings can be repaired, even if it takes time, but people cannot be replaced. That truth gave Erin and Ben the strength to share their story openly, knowing that even though the project had been wounded, their family, their team, and their community were safe. For their supporters, the news was painful to read. People had been eagerly waiting for the unveiling of this project, excited to see what magic the Napiers would bring to Laurel once again. Instead, they were faced with pictures and words that told the story of loss. Still, as the news spread, so did messages of love. Neighbors, fans, and friends stepped forward to remind them that even in moments of sorrow, they were not alone. The story behind the Heirloom Hotel. The building at the heart of this dream was no ordinary place. It was the old Crest Building in downtown Laurel, Mississippi, a structure that had stood since the 1930s. For decades, it had been part of the rhythm of the town, holding memories of shops, gatherings, and a time when life moved at a different pace. When Ben and Aaron, together with their friends, decided to bring it back to life, it felt like breathing air into something that had been sleeping for years. The scope of the project was unlike anything Laurel had seen in a long time. The building itself stretched 25,000 square feet, a space large enough to hold not just rooms, but dreams stacked on top of each other. The vision was for 30 beautifully designed hotel rooms, each carrying the charm and warmth that the Napiers are known for. But that was only the beginning. There was to be a cooking school, a place where people could gather, learn, and share meals made with love. This was not simply about teaching recipes, but about creating experiences that brought families and travelers together. Alongside it, retail storefronts were planned, adding another layer to the building's purpose. Guests would not only stay at the hotel, but also step out into spaces where they could shop, explore, and feel connected to Laurel's downtown heartbeat. The partners behind the project showed just how deeply this dream was tied to the community. It was not only Ben and Aaron carrying the weight. Their close friends Jim and Mallory Raspberry were by their side, sharing in the vision and the work. Josh and Emily Nowell, also lifelong friends, joined as well. Together, these families created a circle of trust, united by their love for their town and their belief that this project could be something truly special. The journey to this point had already been long. They had purchased the building and poured more than 18 months into renovations. Every nail hammered, every wall painted, every design choice was made with care. The plan was for the Heirloom Hotel to open in the spring of 2026, a moment that would have marked not only the return of the Crest Building but also the beginning of a new chapter for Laurel itself. This was why the fire hurt so deeply. The hotel was never just about business. It was about history, community, and friendship woven into brick and mortar. It was about taking something old and giving it new life so that future generations could walk through its doors and feel proud of what their town had built. And though the fire set them back, the story of the Heirloom Hotel was far from over. Dreams like this are not so easily destroyed. With the strength of their partnership and the support of the community, the question was no longer about what had been lost. Instead, it became about what they would do next. When the smoke cleared, the hardest question remained: what was lost inside? The heartbreak of what was lost. When the flames died down and the smoke cleared, what remained was a building forever changed. The fire had not only scarred the walls, but had also stolen months of work, countless hours of labor, and a dream that had been carefully shaped with love. Standing before the wreckage, it became painfully clear just how much had been lost. The physical damage was severe. The upper floors, which had once held the promise of beautiful rooms, were the most affected. Walls that had been freshly painted now bore black streaks of soot. Ceilings sagged from the heat and the water poured in by firefighters. Staircases that were once sturdy had become fragile, unsafe to touch. The roof itself, which had been restored with care, now carried gaping wounds where the fire had burned through. Water from the hoses, though necessary to save what remained, had seeped into nearly every corner. Floors buckled under the weight of it, plaster crumbled, and wiring that had only recently been replaced was ruined. The building still stood, but it was a shadow of the dream it had once been. What made the damage even more devastating was not only the structure itself, but the work that had already been done inside. The finishing touches, which had been painstakingly chosen, were gone. Custom woodwork, carefully designed to honor the building's historic charm, was reduced to splinters. Materials ordered months in advance, many of them special and difficult to replace, were destroyed. Handmade tiles, elegant fixtures, and unique pieces meant to give the Heirloom Hotel its character were all victims of the flames and water. Some historic elements of the building, details that could never be recreated, were lost forever. Each ruined piece told a story of time, care, and heritage that could not simply be bought again. Beyond the visible destruction, the financial weight of the loss hung heavily in the air. This was not just a simple project. It was a multi-million-dollar investment of money, time, and trust. Construction costs had already piled high, with laborers, artisans, and builders pouring their expertise into the site. Materials brought in from across the country had been paid for and installed, only to be destroyed in a matter of hours. The losses represented more than just numbers on a page. They represented risk that the Napiers and their partners had willingly taken because they believed in Laurel's future. And now, so much of that effort lay in ruins. Yet the weight of the tragedy could not be measured only in bricks, beams, or dollars. The emotional and symbolic cost was even greater. For Ben and Erin, the hotel was not simply a business. It was a promise to their town, a way to honor history while creating something new for future generations. They had envisioned families walking through the doors, travelers experiencing the magic of Laurel, and locals taking pride in what had been built. The fire felt like it had stolen not only a building, but also the pride of a community that had been waiting eagerly for this new chapter. For the people of Laurel, the Heirloom Hotel was more than walls and rooms. It was a beacon of growth, a sign that their small town was worthy of attention and care. Every local who passed by had watched the progress with hope, knowing it would bring jobs, visitors, and energy to downtown. To see it damaged before its opening day felt deeply personal. It was as if the whole town had lost something precious, something they had been ready to celebrate together. In the quiet aftermath, the building stood as both a reminder of what had been created and a painful symbol of what had been lost. But even in grief, there was strength. The ashes could not erase the spirit that had built it, nor the love that had been poured into it. What was lost was heartbreaking, but the story was not finished. But what did this mean for the future of the show, the hotel, and the town that had pinned its hopes to this dream? The answers were not simple, and they carried consequences that stretched far and wide. The ripple effects for the show and the project. The fire did not only damage a building, it sent shockwaves through every plan connected to the Heirloom Hotel, including the much-anticipated series Home Town, In This Together. This show had been designed to follow the journey of bringing the hotel to life, from the first blueprint to the grand opening. Now, with the building wounded and its future uncertain, the fate of the series itself hung in the balance. The status of the show became unclear. Would it continue, now focusing on the struggle to rebuild, or would it pause until decisions were made about the hotel's future? Viewers who had been excited to see the behind-the-scenes process were left wondering what story would be told instead. The fire had rewritten the script, and no one yet knew how the narrative would unfold. The launch date of the hotel was also thrown into doubt. The grand opening had been planned for the spring of 2026, but with such significant damage, that timeline seemed impossible to keep. Inspections would need to be done all over again, safety concerns would have to be addressed, and new plans would need to be drawn. Insurance would play a role, but even with financial help, the delays and complications could not be ignored. Funding gaps might appear, as repairs often cost more than expected, and investors would have to decide how to proceed. For the show itself, the fire brought a change in direction. Instead of a cheerful journey of restoration, the cameras might now capture the pain of loss and the resilience of rebuilding. This shift could bring even more emotion and depth to the series, showing viewers not just the beauty of finished spaces, but also the heartbreak and hope behind them. Still, it also meant that parts of the filming, the footage already captured, and the plans for future episodes would have to be adjusted. The ripple effects spread outward from the project to the whole town of Laurel. The Heirloom Hotel had been expected to bring in visitors, boost local businesses, and add to the pride of downtown. With its opening delayed, that momentum slowed. Local shop owners who had been preparing for more foot traffic now faced disappointment. Tourism that might have grown with the hotel's presence would have to wait. For a small town, even a short pause in growth can feel like a major setback. Morale was also tested. The people of Laurel had watched the Napiers work wonders with homes and businesses, and the hotel had been the crown jewel of those efforts. Seeing it damaged shook the spirit of the community, making them question how quickly their dreams could be taken away. At the same time, it also sparked a determination to rally behind the project, proving once again that Laurel's strength lies in its people. On a larger scale, the fire raised awareness about preservation efforts. Historic buildings, while beautiful, carry risks. Their old structures can be fragile, and saving them requires constant care. The tragedy highlighted both the importance and the difficulty of preserving history while making it fit for the future. For preservationists and town planners alike, the lessons learned from this loss would shape future projects in Laurel and beyond. In the end, the fire's impact stretched far beyond bricks and mortar. It touched the show, the timeline, the finances, and the very heartbeat of the town. Yet even as uncertainty loomed, there was one clear truth: the story was still alive. The project might take longer, the show might change, and the town might face challenges, but the dream itself was not gone. But what was people's reaction to this? How did they support the couple? Reactions filled with love and strength. When the fire news spread, the voices that mattered most were those of Ben and Erin Napier. They had carried this dream with such care, and their words reflected both pain and hope. Erin's tone was heavy, yet tender, as she described the heartbreak of seeing something so loved fall into ashes. She spoke with honesty about the sorrow, comparing it to a loss that cut deep into the heart. Yet within her sadness, there was a spark of hope, a reminder that even in moments of ruin, dreams could still be rebuilt. Ben's words carried the weight of his protective heart. For him, the building was not just stone and wood, but a piece of the town's story, one that he believed could still be saved. Together, they leaned on each other, reminding everyone that while walls could burn, love and resilience could not. Their partners, Jim and Mallory Raspberry and Josh and Emily Nowell, felt the same sting. They had walked every step of this journey together, and the fire struck them like a personal loss. Jim, who had long been known for his love of Laurel's history, carried the sadness of seeing part of that history damaged. Mallory, with her bright spirit, focused on how they could lift each other up in the hard days ahead. Josh and Emily shared the grief but also clung tightly to faith that new life could rise from the ruins. Their voices blended with Ben and Erin's, forming a chorus of strength that told the town they would not give up. The community of Laurel responded with open arms. Neighbors who had watched the hotel's progress stood heartbroken, yet ready to help. For them, the Heirloom Hotel was not just a project but a promise. Seeing it burned hurt deeply, but it also stirred pride in their small town's resilience. People gathered in conversations at local shops and across the streets, sharing prayers, offering hands, and vowing that they would continue to stand behind the Napiers and their friends. Fans from across the country and beyond filled social media with messages of love. Thousands wrote words of encouragement, reminding Ben and Erin that they had touched lives far outside of Laurel. Some fans expressed sadness over the delay in seeing the hotel completed, while others shared personal stories of how the Napiers' work had inspired them to believe in hope even in dark times. There were debates, too. Some wondered if the building should be rebuilt exactly as planned, while others suggested new directions. But through every comment, one feeling stood out: support. People did not want the dream to end, and they were ready to cheer for whatever came next. Officials also shared their voices. The fire department spoke with compassion, assuring the town that every effort had been made to save the building. Their bravery in those early morning hours kept the damage from spreading further. City officials of Laurel offered words of encouragement, reminding citizens that while the loss was painful, it also highlighted the importance of unity and care for their town's treasures. Historic preservation groups added their thoughts as well. They recognized the weight of losing irreplaceable features, but also pointed out the strength of Laurel's dedication to saving its past. Together, these reactions painted a picture of heartbreak balanced by hope. From Ben and Erin to their partners, from neighbors to fans, from officials to preservationists, the message was the same. The fire had caused damage, but it had not taken away the dream. The voices rose like a gentle chorus, wrapping around the Napiers and their friends, reminding them that they were not standing alone. But even as support poured in, the biggest question remained: where do they go from here? What lies ahead? In the days after the fire, the focus shifted from mourning to wondering what would come next. The Heirloom Hotel was damaged, but not destroyed, and the options ahead were many. For Ben, Erin, and their partners, the choice was not easy, but their determination to find a way forward gave everyone hope. One option was to rebuild exactly as planned. This would mean repairing the fire damage, replacing lost materials, and pushing forward with the same vision of a 30-room boutique hotel with shops and a cooking school. It would take more time, more money, and more patience, but it would honor the original dream. Another possibility was to salvage what parts of the building could be saved and reimagine the project into something new. If certain sections of the historic structure could not be restored, perhaps a slightly different design would emerge, still rooted in the past, but adapted for the future. Delaying the opening was another path that seemed likely. With so much damage, it was clear that spring of 2026 was no longer realistic. The timeline would need to stretch, but delays did not mean defeat. They could give the team the chance to reflect, to adjust, and to build something even stronger than before. Scaling down was also on the table, though a difficult choice. That might mean fewer rooms or a smaller scope for the hotel, but it could make the project more manageable after the setback. Insurance played a key role in shaping what came next. The building had been covered, but historic properties often require special attention. Coverage could help ease the financial blow, paying for construction, repairs, and materials lost in the fire. Still, insurance alone could not restore time, effort, or unique architectural details. What it could do, however, was keep the dream alive and give the team the resources needed to start again. The show, Home Town, In This Together, would also adapt. Instead of simply documenting the restoration of the hotel, it could now follow a more emotional journey. Viewers might see the heartbreak, the cleanup, the rebuilding, and the resilience of a community determined to rise. What began as a story of construction could transform into a story of hope, showing the world not only the beauty of design, but also the strength of the human spirit. For the timeline ahead, little was certain. Plans were being reshaped, inspections would be needed, and choices would take time. Still, one thing was clear: the project was not ending. It was simply shifting. The Napiers and their partners had already proven their love for Laurel and their ability to bring life to old spaces. With that love guiding them, the Heirloom Hotel still had a future, one that might look different from the original plan, but could carry even deeper meaning. The path forward was filled with questions, but also with possibilities. Rebuild, salvage, or reimagine. Whatever choice was made, it would carry the weight of history, hope, and heart. For Laurel, for the Napiers, and for all who believed in the dream, the fire was not the final chapter. It was simply the start of a new one. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.